They made a mistake at the time they did it. You know?
Well, they went from full-time, remember? There was part-time to full-time kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So they kind of...
So it was, you know, that's history. But,
Right.
No, I think it would be a good thing. The size.
Oh, no.
He's coming in for the...
John, a big part that. A big part that John was talking about. Eddie Smith
Oh, yeah.
is completely losing it over Miriam, over all the things that we had already approved.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she was going back to you.
Thank you, sir.
Unbelievable. That name.
I spent 2 hours up to Dunkin' Donuts one time, and she and her husband.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
We on?
No.
Yep. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. Valerie, you want to do the honors?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, announcements. Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meeting 6 p.m. December 14th and December 28th, 2009. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 o'clock. Work session meetings 5 p.m. November 30th, 2009. All the above meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of October are posted in the front lobby of Town Hall. The 2009 annual Christmas parade will take place on Saturday, December 5th at 5 p.m. Okay, we have approvals of the minutes of our work session of November 9. Anybody have any comments, changes, etc.? If there is none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the work session minutes of November 9. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. The minutes of the regular town meeting, the regular board meeting, November 9. Anyone have any comments, changes, etc.? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the board meeting on November 9. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. All right. Agenda review. You have any?
Another minutes.
Mr. Freitas?
Chairman, Just wondering, on your work session, we have it scheduled for Monday, but I'm sitting here and realize that town hall's closed Thursday and Friday. We only have 2 days left in this week. I don't know if we'll even have anything for a work session. Just wondering if you wanted to move that up. There was going to be an extra Monday. If you wanted to move it up to the 7th.
7th is school board,
Right, but,
but 5 instead of,
yeah,
Yeah.
you could still have a work session. Val could still go to the school board meeting.
We need a work session.
I'm saying we've got everything on that we have so far, any concerns that I know of, unless an emergency comes up. If you wanted to consider canceling that and make it
Why
for the
don't we
7th
cancel the
instead.
30th, and then we'll await your pleasure if something happens, or the board's pleasure, for the 7th.
So, but we will schedule the 7th so that we can put our public notice in tonight. So we'll schedule
Any problems with that?
for December 7th.
I'll entertain a motion to cancel the work session for the 30th and reschedule it for Monday, December 7th.
so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the work session from the 30th to the 7th of December. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The work session is moved.
Charlie, we have a set of minutes for the November 16th that we,
Is there another set?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, November 16th. This is the work session. The November 16th minutes. Anyone have any comments on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the work session minutes for November 16th. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. All right. Is there any agenda review, Paul? You have anyone want to? At 6:30, we have a public hearing to discuss the forming of an energy commission.
So I would go with our visitors, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a visitor from the Rotary. What is this, an elf? Is this an elf?
Hey, happy holidays! Hi, I'm an elf for Santa. I'm a toy maker. My name's Belle. And Santa let me come down here so that we can find out if you're all ready for that big holiday parade on December 5th. Huh? Are you ready? And we're gonna trim trees and have cookies and hot chocolate and a big parade and all that good stuff. And then you're gonna have fireworks. That's great. We love fireworks. And then Santa was wondering, can he still ride on the big red fire truck? Can he? You think?
Yes, he can.
Okay, great. I'll let him know that because he's really excited to coming down. Huh? You ain't seen a big elf, have you?
I have not.
Huh? Yeah, he's an elf issue. Do you know why elves' toes curl up?
No.
You don't?
Oh.
See, because there's tailors and bakers and toy makers. I'm a toy maker. So when I get down to make the toys, my toes curl. I thought you might want to know that. Huh?
Not really, but that's nice to know.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, do you have any questions? Do you need to let Santa know anything?
what was the date again, Belle?
December 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this week
What time is the parade?
it's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, it'd be fun. And he was hoping you'd have all the kids come down.
We're going to have a food concessions,
Yeah,
so we get fed.
that's what I heard.
Yeah, and a bonfire.
And a bonfire.
Yeah.
What, with the fireworks?
Yeah, right?
Oh, that's great. I love it. That's the building. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me come down and making sure you guys are all set. And I'll tell Santa that you're all ready. You ready?
We're ready.
You're all ready.
Oh, we're ready. Oh, I will
Big
be.
good boys and girls this year.
Have you been good? Santa's still checking the list.
Can we take a vote?
Huh? Who says they've been good?
Oh, there we go.
Who's
Yep.
I was trying to fill it in time so you can get to your work session. Public hearing.
All right, do we have any correspondence? None?
I wish. No.
No correspondence, all right. Land use permits are available for review in the lobby of the Select Board's office. Chairman's comments. I don't really have anything other than the Rotary. The parade is going to be a pretty big event. I guess there's going to be a concession that is run by the common man, and the fire truck will be there, and there'll be a bonfire. So it's a big event. So, Mr. Wood.
I wish the board would recommend that the parents keep a sharp eye on their children because it is a dangerous event.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we do have a safety meeting that ties into that.
Yeah, when
promotes it
is
to the
that
parents.
safety meeting coming up?
I'll have to get
We've got
the
a
date
number
and
of
time.
issues to
Yeah.
deal with. So we'll deal with it at a safety meeting and make the appropriate.
Oh, we already have that in place where we now have people walk the sides of the parade route.
Yeah. Well, there's certain.
And there's no
the state's
longer,
got-
we don't
the
throw
state's-
candy from the floats anymore and stuff like that.
Yeah, the state's got RSAs to cover what's going on with these floats anymore.
Right.
All right, do we have any purchase orders?
Yes, we do. It's a bid. You have a bid.
This,
Peter.
road agent, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, the purchase orders on these would have to follow since they're quantitative and we don't know what kind of weather we would get. So the price is going to be per hour.
This is the guy who takes away the snow once it's,
Yep.
Or helps us if the storm's beyond our capacity or all the above.
We received 2 bids. One was from R.M. Piper, and one was from D.A. White Construction. D.A. White was low bid at $58 per hour per 10-wheel truck with an operator. I'd like to move to accept D.A. White's bid.
is that the thing that, do they bring along the thing?
No, that's ours.
That's ours.
That's yours.
So we
Town owns
operate
it.
that, and this is the truck, and, okay.
He's just hauling the snow and then,
Do I have a motion to accept the Dana White bid at $58 per 10-wheel truck for the removals, for winter services,
so
snow
moved.
removal?
So moved.
Been moved
Second.
and seconded.
Can I ask Peter a question? And Paul, do you know what we spent last year for Dana by any hand? Just offhand?
No, I just know
Okay.
it was less than the year before, but
Yeah.
I don't. I can tell you that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. I was just kind of curious, that's all.
I have a question that's not sort of related to this, but the objective of this program is to get the snow off of Main Street, among other things, before the shops open in the morning, assuming it's still not snowing.
That's correct, and the reason why we hire out is because our trucks have the sanders installed. So if we're out plowing and sanding, we need to utilize our trucks with the sanders. And these trucks come with no sanders, and we just load them and dump the snow.
So you're the one that'd call this guy in, depending on how much snow we have.
Exactly, yes.
So it doesn't go from the snow dump into his truck, it goes...
From Main Street to
Main
his
Street
truck,
into the dump.
Got it.
and then it gets dumped.
Got it.
You know, it's not a big deal, I was just...
I only have how
Unless it
much
doesn't
budget.
get done.
Are they going to,
There's $26,000 in that line. I don't know how much got spent. We didn't expend the line last year.
I guess we're ready for a vote.
was there a question last year or so about when they start to remove the snow on Main Street?
Right, well, we started changing that towards the end of the year.
But there's a parking ban that goes into effect, what?
That's year round. It's midnight, I believe. The town's parking ban.
Charlie, when I worked here before, we used to start cleaning Main Street at midnight.
Right.
Now would assure that by 6 a.m. everything was done. Now I believe that we don't start exactly at midnight. We start later for the restaurants and the bars, so their patrons can stay longer. Which does put a little bit more pressure on the department to get it removed, but it also is a little bit sensitive to the merchants in town.
Yeah.
What started happening, we started swinging too far the other way. We weren't getting out there till 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
So then I believe we went back to about 2 o'clock.
yeah, good.
I'm not sure, my understanding of what happens, at least at one of the bars, is that they tell the patrons when the parking ban goes into effect, so you get out and move your car. So, anyway, we have a motion that's been seconded for acceptance of the Dana White winter services bid at $58 per hour for a 10-wheeler. The board's pleasure. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Committee reports. Darrell?
I have nothing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Probably going to Amy here.
Planning board, we had a rather spirited meeting the other night. Some of the,
We heard.
some of the things that went on was the planning board accepted Mr. Prescott wants to build a building up on Tenny Mountain Highway, and that was accepted, so he'll be building that building. There was quite a discussion in regards to the civic, to the area on top of what I would know as Ward's Hill, but on top of the hill, right next to Dr. Bentwood's office, and where the store was torn down to the, have all of it. I don't think they have, anyway, a certain section of it, I guess, to where the Kents live is civic, commercial, and that would mean offices, doctors' offices and things like that. And they finally decided to table that discussion for a while, because there was a lot of discussion as to how it was going to be taken by the residents that live there now. Ivy Lane, at some time in the past, changed their subdivision. Started out as five lots, and then it went down to 3 lots. And at the planning board, they accepted to have the 3 lots revert back to what they were before they even had the subdivision into 1 lot. So they're going to work on that. I think that was a crutch of the meeting.
What was the discussion about changing the zoning on Highland Street from?
See, it's residential now,
right.
And they tried to. They're thinking of changing that. Oh, and the other, there's one other. They were thinking of changing that from residential, from reservoir, or all the way up through, as far as I can see,
Right.
to civic commercial, so that if there was a house that became vacant or whatever, or a lot that was vacant, then offices such as doctors, accountants, lawyers' offices could go in there.
Dennis.
And the reason they didn't...
Orthodontist.
Yeah, and the reason the orthodontics office didn't get accepted was because they thought maybe it would be time to go along and rezone that whole section up in there. As far as that's
Because you have one building that used to be a doctor's office, I don't know what it is now, and then you have the forestry, which is
Right.
vacant, and there's some talk of turning that into
from Reservoir
something.
Road down, other than student housing, there is one office, Dr. Bentwood's office, and that's the only office in the old, the other item that they talked about some is rezoning along Tenny Mountain Highway. I believe there was a lot or two that the zoning cut through the middle of the lot, especially on the west side. I think it's the west side, on the left-hand side going up towards Rumney. They wanted to rezone that so that the lot would be only in one zone, the commercial zone. And there was no maps or anything like that that were presented, and I think there was a misunderstanding as to what they were trying to do. So there was discussion about that. But I believe, and this is only my belief, is that when they, years and years ago, they didn't have the bypass, and the old Route 25, Route 25? Yeah, Route 25 went up by a farm that used to be there, and when they changed the entrance to Tenny Mountain from Highland Street and made the bypass, they just didn't change the zoning. So what they want to do is to move the zone down to the other side of the bypass in Route 25. So this law of these lots that had a division of zoning would be one zone or the other.
So basically, right now, it's still residential?
No, it's either commercial or agricultural. It goes in back a short distance about where Home Depot wanted to go in and behind Harris Brothers and so forth. That stops being commercial right at the base of the hill, and then it becomes agricultural up over the hill. But the old zone, the way the zoning is, it went through a couple of the lots that should really be just changed from agriculture down into commercial. And the reason for that is, I believe, that there are certain circumstances that if it's a divided lot in zoning, that it's not as acceptable for what use they want to use it for as it would be if you only had one zone in there.
What's the forestry building zone does?
That would be, that actually is residential, isn't it, Paul?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just curious. Okay.
But that came into effect before a lot of the zoning laws in Plymouth were.
Valerie?
The Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Sally Kilfoyle has resigned effective this month, and the Chamber has formed a committee to review applicants for her, consider applicants for her replacement. That's all I have.
Butch?
I don't have anything.
I attended the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer meeting, which was uneventful, and they went through, it was another one of these sessions where they went through the plans, like line by line, for 2.5 hours. And also the Rotary Club, their meeting was basically about the Christmas parade. And I also took the opportunity of returning an invoice they asked us to pay, which they took as gracefully as possible and are dealing with it. Other than that, I have nothing else. Other business. Safety, let's see, we've got till 6:30. Safety building update. Paul, you want to fill us in on that, or do you want me
Sure.
to?
Part of the committee is broken into, I believe, a three-person group to get RFPs on the site work, so that we'll actually have a hard number and what it will cost to clear the property at the PD for the buildings. And also the board has met with an architectural firm, Kelly Davis, SDA, and we're retaining them for a very low price of $15,500. Normally, that would go about $40,000 for each project, but they'll do both projects, both police and fire, for that price, because they've already done buildings that are similar, if not exactly like buildings that our two chiefs are interested in. And we'll start having hard numbers on those buildings
Very cool.
either the end of December or the very beginning of January. We've also met with a contractor that's built the police station in Littleton, which is what the...
BPS.
Right, Littleton, which our police chief is interested in emulating in our town. And I've been looking into the different financing possibilities where there's a chance that we might not see an impact on the tax rate for a couple of years, depending on some different scenarios that we've talked to the finance community about, from bonding companies to state banks, nation banks, and more recently our local banks, even considering getting together in a syndicate form and putting together a plan for the town that would mean a lot lower cost overall for the town's taxpayers, because we might be able to postpone some payments, if not be able to offset them with money that we already have in reserve.
We're, Sumner Davis is the architect. Have we contracted with them yet? Or
Yes.
not? Signed the contract.
Yep.
BPS is yet to be done, but that's $5,000 for the
That's the contract. He's proposing $5,000. He would take over anything that the engineering company wouldn't do. That $15,500 will get us to the March meeting. That'll include all artist conceptions, conceptual drawings, schematics, hard figures on what the two buildings will be estimated to cost. So that will be going into the March meeting knowing.
we should have the financing
Yep.
arranged at the same
All
time.
the public hearings, they'll both be available, both the contractor and the engineering company.
When do we expect to start public hearings on that?
They gave a schedule in there. I believe their first one will begin beginning of January.
Okay. So prior to that...
They don't want it prior to that.
information.
Both chiefs are going to be working with both the engineer and the architect.
Yeah.
Finalizing the Littleton Police Station isn't exactly what Chief Tamperino needs. We're a college community. We need a larger retaining area. Some other things, changes that have to be made. So they want 5 more weeks before they can give a hard price on what the buildings are going to cost. So over those 5 weeks, they'll be working with both chiefs.
Time capsule update.
I think it's time for the public
Did we
hearing.
find it? Oh, we got another 5 minutes.
Do we?
Yeah. 3.5.
Okay.
You want to update us on, did you find the
I think we
time
need a
capsule?
battery in our clock. I want to talk about time capsules. Yes, we found at least one time capsule, but now I'm afraid that there might be 2.
Really?
There is? Is there, John? I need... Okay, well, I'll do this one, John, the one that I know that I found, since I was
Same
tasked to
time that
find
you
it.
put in,
No,
or- Oh, okay.
No, different.
All right.
no. November 11th, 1976, our country's bicentennial. We buried one out in front of the town hall on November 11th, Veterans Day. It's in the form of a casket, and I'll pass this around. You can see all the artifacts that were put in there. It was meant to be open on, and there's a discrepancy here. On this newspaper article, it was meant to be open in 2026. But we have another article that states it's to be opened in 2013, which is going to be, Plymouth will be celebrating its 250th anniversary. But now we're starting to think the reason why there's a discrepancy in the 2 dates, we're now starting to hear that there was another time capsule put in the ground prior to that in 1963, which is what I think Mr. Wood behind me is referring to, and he's going to help me find.
You don't know where that is?
No, but we're going to ask on public TV tonight that if anybody knows about the 1963 time capsule, because we were able to get these photographs on the other one
Yep.
in the 1976. So we know that that one's buried, full-size coffin inside a concrete vault towards the building, right behind
What do
the
you mean a full-size coffin? Like,
full-size coffin. Looks like they used a real coffin.
as far as we know, there's no body in it that we don't have
I
to...
know there's a lot of documents and a football and a baseball glove and
$10,000 in there too. We'll find it quick now.
looks like 20, John.
Get that out. It'll
So
be
that's supposed to be,
all in front of town tomorrow morning.
that one's located, the building side of that big monument off to the right down here. That says Plymouth on it.
So we don't have to displace anything?
Nope, that one's about 6
And a
feet.
little grass up?
That's about 6 feet deep.
Good God.
We just have to verify whether it's supposed to be open on 2013 and 2026. Or,
One in 63.
now,
The one in 63, was that for the bicentennial?
1976.
Oh, what's 63?
What's 63?
63.
For the
that-
towns.
63 was a
Town's charter.
was a centennial, was a celebration, a big celebration. I think it was the town's.
Yeah, the town's charter, right, 1763.
Right, which is why we think there's another time. Do I have permission to talk to Mr. Wood, Mr. Chairman?
63 was
He started this whole thing.
200 years.
1763, then 1963.
Yeah, so it's 63, so it's a bicentennial.
Supposed to be open pretty soon.
Isn't that correct?
But you know where that one, is that supposed to be out front here?
I think it's right where you said on the,
Where the other one is?
Centennial, 63 was the one that was buried because it was the 200-year celebration of the town.
Right, all indications are then they're both buried out front here.
1763.
One, I know exactly where it's buried because of those photographs. The other one, we need some people from the 1963 celebration that might have taken some black and white photographs.
I'll take a look, I think I know it.
Because I'm more afraid of that one's underneath a tree that looks about 30 years old out there with a big root system.
Weren't you there?
No, I was entertaining the government at that point.
Oh, I see, okay.
That's it. And everybody that I've gone to ask that question seems to have been entertaining the government at that time.
So the rumor that there's $10,000 in cash in the one from 63 is...
No, I don't want to come into work tomorrow and see the lawn dug up. Somebody can repair the light that got broken out front, but don't dig up the lawn.
Excavator sitting out there.
I wish I hadn't said that. I'd have a police car out front all night.
So we have 4 years to find the first one.
All right. So they'll be opened in 13?
Yeah.
2013? No?
That one there, I believe, should be opened up in 2026.
Oh, okay.
But there's also 2 newspaper articles that the Historical Society, which has helped us out a lot, is going to continue to research it.
50 years, and the other one, 63, would be, what's that?
2013.
60 years. Yeah,
4 more years.
that's 60 years.
No,
47 and 13, yeah, 60 years. All right, so we don't have to worry about that? No.
No.
Okay.
Charlie, I get 37.
Huh?
I add up 37, not
50 years,
47.
okay. 63, 50 years would be 13.
Right, 2013.
The informative meeting should be
All right.
coming right up.
I'm glad we got that over with. We're going to have a public hearing on the, discuss forming an energy committee at 6:30. So I'm going to call the public hearing to order.
Energy Commission.
Energy Commission. Is there anybody speaking for the Energy Commission?
Good evening, members of the Select Board. My name is Paul Phillips. I live on Ash Hill Road here in Plymouth. For the last 6 months, I've been the Vice Chair of the Plymouth Energy Committee. I'm here actually as a substitute for Ray Gosney, who's our chairman, who is under the weather. He's not feeling well. We do have some other members of the Energy Committee here tonight. We have Dave Lauren, Bob Reels, Eric DeLeo, and Steve Call. The Energy Committee, as you know, was formed in 2007 when the voters approved a warrant article at town meeting that year. We've been active for the last 2.5 years. We've been very successful in terms of advancing the town's energy agenda, looking at the energy usage of municipal buildings. We have some partial audits of the buildings done. We've done a lot of public outreach and public education. We've held a couple of good conferences. And we have also been active in looking at different funding sources, because this is a very interesting time for energy efficiency, energy consumption, energy usage in terms of the funding that's available. And we want to continue doing that good work. The General Court of the State of New Hampshire, and I do want to acknowledge Representative Cooney, who is, oh, there she is, who's the chair of the Local and County Government Committee, had the foresight this year to enact HB 189, which authorizes towns to form municipal energy commissions. And so the Energy Committee has asked the Select Board to place a warrant article on the ballot for next March's town meeting to ask the voters to adopt HB 189 for the town of Plymouth and establish a municipal energy commission. The benefits of this commission, we think, are many. First and foremost, it will establish a commission that is dedicated to looking at the town's energy usage, saving energy costs, looking at ways to save energy usage, and I think most importantly, for purposes of the statute, attracting outside funding, both from the state. There's a specific provision of the statute that talks about the Office of Energy and Planning developing new programs, new funding sources for towns that have established energy commissions, which is what we want this warrant article to do. There's also a variety of federal funding sources, one of which we've actually applied for the week before last, and we're very hopeful for that. But you know, our primary mission is to make sure that the rising costs of energy are controlled, that the town has good vision and foresight going forward in terms of its energy use. And the town of Plymouth in the last several years has really become a leader in the state in this way, not only with the formation of the Energy Committee, but you know, in several other ways. We had a high-performance building article on last year's warrant, which passed. And Plymouth is really becoming known across the state as a place where there's good planning, good foresight for energy usage. So we are supportive of this warrant article. We're hopeful the voters will be as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Could you just state briefly what the advantage to an energy commission is over the existing energy committee?
Yes, the Energy Committee, as you know, was formed at town meeting. The advantages of the Energy Commission are several. First of all, it provides a fixed number of members to the committee or to the commission. It provides for fixed terms of office, which is a 3-year term. It provides for appointment of these members by the Select Board. And so in our view, this creates greater accountability for the Commission in terms of getting direction from the Select Board, having terms of office, just having a lot more definition to the structure of the Commission, more so than the committee has right now. And this is good for public accountability. It's good for the public process. The other advantage is that it has enumerated powers. Right now, we have a fairly open agenda, but the enumerated powers in the statute are that we are directed to look at the costs of energy and the usage of energy. We are also directed to form a discrete energy fund, which will be controlled by the town treasurer, which will be used for receiving all of the funding that the Energy Commission is able to attract. And that's something that's a vehicle that's created specifically by statute. We know we don't have that power right now. And then, as I mentioned before, the statute provides that the State Office of Energy and Planning is directed to create programs and direct funds to towns that have these energy commissions established. So we think these are some real serious concrete advantages that the Energy Commission has over the Energy Committee.
And all expenditures of those funds have to go directly through the Board of Selectmen?
Now, the funding you're talking about would come from what?
Well, the statute mentions the ability of the Select Board to appropriate funds if you want to. You're not obviously obligated to, but that's one possible source. It mentions state grants. It mentions gifts. It basically says that the energy fund, which is this discrete fund that's created, can attract monies from these sources.
Now, does that have only to do with municipal buildings, or does it have to do with, like, the hospital or the university and places like that that would require energy efficient?
The statute talks only about municipal energy costs. So these are town buildings, town energy usage.
Right, so that the hospital and the university would not be under their wing.
That's right, that's right. And the Energy Commission is supposed to advise all of the town bodies, all of the boards and the commissions on whatever energy issues might come up for them. So it's a good, it's a single source of expertise and knowledge that exists now in the committee, but I think would be much better served by the commission. And I do want to say on behalf of the committee, we have some really good members. We actually had a peaceful transfer of power this year, which was good. We went from our former chairman, Steve Whitman, who was a municipal planner in private practice, to Ray Gosney, who was an energy executive. We have some really top-notch people on the committee, all of whom have the town's interest in mind, as well as some good professional experience in energy usage. So we think we've got a good group going.
Does this have potential to affect things like, I would assume, the projects that we have under consideration now? Firehouse, police station?
Well, we'd certainly want to help you with any of the energy uses that come up for those buildings. Obviously, we've looked at the existing fire building and the police building, and those are not terribly energy efficient.
No.
So I think those are examples of how you can make some poor choices at the time of building, and they have obviously a lot of costs that we're now paying over time.
Now, you folks don't have any police power. You merely...
No, we don't. You mean in terms of subpoenaing witnesses and...
Oh, no, as far as demanding municipal buildings be set to a certain standard?
No. We're purely advisory and under the
continues to be an
direction
advisory group. And getting back to the question where you're leaning, Charlie, we already know that this construction company and this architect are using the guidelines by LEED. There's not going to be a LEED certificate on the end, but the Energy Commission would be able to sit down with the architect and the engineer and...
Yeah, BPS brought that up tonight. They go to the...
Do you take into consideration the extra cost to a municipal unit as well as the energy efficient?
Yes, the statute specifically directs us to look at the costs.
Paul, can you talk a little bit about the composition of the commission? So expertise is coming from the commission, or the commission is sort of aggregating expertise?
Well, I was speaking of the expertise of the present committee, and obviously the appointment of the commission is entirely up to the Select Board. But we do have members who are, like myself, who are very much interested in serving, have good background in the issues, bring a lot of wide variety of expertise to the issues. We have an attorney, which is myself. We have a planner. We have an energy executive. We have a professor. We have a research scientist, construction folks. We just have a lot of good skills and talents that we hope you will consider if and when this warrant article passes and you have the opportunity to appoint a commission.
What size... What would you see this body, I mean, how many members? It sounds like
well,
fairly...
The statute directs the commission to have no fewer than 3 nor more than 10. And so that's the limit by the statute. And the 3-year terms are meant to be rotating. So the first group would be appointed for 1 year, the second group for 2 years, the third group for 3 years, until they catch up and have staggered 3-year terms.
Is there any layman in the commission now, or committee, or are all you professional people very...
Well, none of us is, well, except we're not elected officials, so I think we're all layman in that sense of the
I
word.
mean, do you have anybody other than the fact of just a guy on the street, let's say, that might be a member, or are you all professional people such as lawyers and so forth?
Well, we have an electrician. I'm not sure who I'm going to volunteer to be the man on the street in this case.
But a lot of your committees and so forth will
Yes.
have, like the insurance company will have just an ordinary layman as part of their commission to represent people that do not have specific professions or specific interests.
Right. I mean, we're...
I can volunteer to be that lame person.
All right. Dave's going to step up and be that person.
I have to be a layperson, too.
I can be the man on the street.
Well, I mean, we're all just ordinary citizens, and so...
That would be up to the Board of Selectmen to choose.
Yeah, we don't have particular slots for particular folks.
And I presume one of your objectives is to affect the building code over some period of time.
We actually have been talking to the planning board about that and working with them. That's something we'd like to have, a role in advising them on as the statute directs. Thanks, Paul. I did prepare some handouts, and they're available on the table. There's a copy of HB 189, which is the new statute. There's a copy of the frequently asked questions that we presented to the Select Board on the 28th of September. And there is a copy of the warrant article itself. And these will also be available downstairs at Town Hall for the next period of time, I guess until they're gone. There are 25 copies altogether.
Are either of you aware of, Representative Cooney, of other towns' sizes of commissions coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to state, if now is the right time, that, for the record, I'm Representative Mary Cooney, represent Plymouth and Hebron, and I'm also the chair of the House Municipal and County Government Committee. And this bill, HB 189, came to our committee, since this is the public hearing, and the public may not have heard this before, but I did, state it to the selectmen before. It was introduced in our committee last year, and it was supported with great enthusiasm by many people across the state. 94 towns out of 234 total cities and towns already have formed energy committees. And I am sure most of these are probably going, like Plymouth is, to go form an energy commission. And the level of interest of so many dedicated citizens in so many towns indicates a commitment to the concept that even small towns can work to make a difference in our community energy consumption. The Municipal and County Government Committee heard testimony of support from many people, including the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, the Office of Devine and Millett, representing New Hampshire Electric Co-op, Eric Stelzer from the Office of Energy and Planning, and Jim O'Brien, a selectman from Hopkinton, who was on the Governor Lynch's Climate Change Task Force. The testimony convinced the committee and subsequently the Senate Public Affairs Committee that there is a distinct benefit to a town forming an energy commission as opposed to continuing with just an energy committee, as funds become available through federal, state programs, grants, and revolving funds. The Energy Commission, as opposed to the Energy Committee, will be able to receive funds as an agent of the town. This will expedite the process of putting those funds to work as soon as possible. The bill contains a safeguard, as we previously talked about, to prevent the Commission from acting without the Select Board's approval on receiving and expending funds over $500. Our committee voted this bill ought to pass, and it was passed on the floor by a voice vote on 3/11/09. The Senate passed it with a small amendment that I had suggested at 5/20/09. House Bill 189 was signed by the governor 5/20/09. Plymouth has an outstanding energy committee, as we've just been talking about, comprised of very talented and knowledgeable volunteers, and I believe it would be a great asset for the town to change this committee into an official arm of the town government by making it an energy commission.
Can I ask one more question? What surrounding towns in this area have either an energy committee or an energy commission, or is Plymouth the only one in this like
I'm not sure
from
about that.
Lincoln, Meredith.
I'm going to just turn to the members of the committee and see if they know.
Center Harbor has one. Samberton, I believe, has a very active one. Guilford does. Guilford.
But none up in this area, like from here north.
Littleton probably has one. I'm not sure if I've seen them at meetings. Campton Way, too? There's a website, Wikipedia website that has a list of all of them.
I've got a question. If our building code, we effectively adopted the state building code. What happens if the state alters the building code to include certain mandates related to energy? Would that automatically apply to Plymouth, or would this be something we'd have to... Let's just, worst case scenario, if they go LEED certified as a requirement for municipal buildings, becomes part of the state building code.
I've got to tell you, I am not that familiar with the town's building code and whether there's a provision in there that requires automatic update when the state's building code changes. I assume there is not one, and then you would have to, consciously enact that provision.
I'm familiar with like the life safety codes. And when they're adopted by the state, they usually apply to all of the building codes. The towns that have building codes have to... Actually, I don't think you need to. Life safety codes are required by the state. They become a requirement of construction in all of the towns, but I don't know how this would affect.
I think that would be new construction.
Yeah. Well, new construction is certain. I mean, if they put in a code that said all new municipal buildings shall be LEED certified, as an example, how do we have an option to?
As I say, I don't know how the building code is adopted. If it says that it's geared or it's tagged to a particular version of the state building code, that's one thing, the version of 2006. If it says, the state building code as it may be amended from time to time, then I think that issue might arise and you'd have to opt out. But I just don't know.
So as we adopt this, or the warrant to adopt this in March, would that include the number? So we would move for three members, 3 alternates?
The way we drafted the warrant article is basically the way the statute is drafted, which is to ask the voters to adopt the provisions of the chapter. And at that point, if the voters approve the warrant article and essentially direct the select board to make those appointments, then we would leave that, those decisions up to you in terms of the membership as well as the appointments themselves.
So the warrant doesn't have to include the size?
It does not. It does not have to, and nor does it at this point.
Got it, because the House bill gives you a range. Okay.
You said you had a sample of the warrant article. It's not in here.
Oh, it's not in there?
I don't know.
Here's the sample.
I've got them all back.
Mr. Chairman. We're getting some from the table up there. We presented that to you 2 weeks ago. That's what I thought.
Mr. Chairman, if we don't have any more questions, I think we should take some questions from the audience.
Does anyone have any comments or questions on this? John?
If the commission is voted in, will they try to get the lights turned off at the Hitchner property, Crowley property, that are eating up money left and right?
I believe that's something we're just starting to get into right now is municipal lighting.
We
the private lighting, but that's one of the things we're just getting into right now is initiating an inventory of the town lighting.
We have talked a lot about lighting in town. We have some members who are very interested in the amount of lighting. We're looking at the process for how you would identify lights that can be turned off. We know there are some. And the question is, what's the process for making sure that everybody's interests are protected as we go through that?
Will you have the power to get the college to put better lighting on crosswalks? Probably not.
We are simply an advisory, we will be simply an advisory commission. So we would study the issue, make a recommendation, and leave it up to the appropriate town boards and commissions to make those decisions.
Right now, where the roundabout is, that is sorely badly lighted for pedestrians and cars. There's a lot of places there where you can't see a kid or a student or anything. So that, probably on the state level, should be increased there. And especially with the new hockey rink and everything, and that five-phase construction over there, that's going to be a heavy traffic area. And we probably got to do as much as we can to protect the people.
I think that's more of a safety issue than energy.
It all comes down to money, and they're trying to save money.
Well, but I mean, if for safety reasons we decide to put lighting in a certain place, it'll be put in regardless of the cost. You know, once a kid gets killed.
But what type of lighting you put in might be just to the committee, or the commission.
I'm sure that there's probably codes that are coming up on lighting, you know, how you do this. If there isn't, there sure will be, but...
We've had a long period of time of thinking about the issue and hearing from some folks. We had the account rep from the electric co-op come in and talk about the different kinds of lighting that can be used and ways to save energy with those lighting. We just haven't focused on specific locations as yet, and we know that when we do, we're going to have to talk to the police department and the residents and other interests in the town.
Is there anyone else?
I think the House bill does a great job in giving us latitude here. I worry that the warrant should be more focused just because it's an advisory group similar to the Budget Committee. So you want to send that message through the numbers here. Budget Committee is small, so it can sort of drop in on different other groups, and the whole group can drop in. I'd like to see a smaller number, closer to the 3 than the 10, just to send the message that this is an advisory group that would come to the planning board in its entirety, and not something closer to the 10 would be more of a too many chefs, definitely. But I'd be in favor of something that really outlined a tight group that was more of a just had a little bit faster moving power that could go in and sit in other groups in its entirety.
I think that the numbers of people on the committee would be up to the select board.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I could see, I don't know.
But the warrant might communicate, sending a warrant that's very focused.
10 people is an unwieldy number, but at the same time, depends what you're trying to accomplish.
How many people are on the Energy Committee now exactly?
We have about 10 right now. We've lost a couple members, we've gained a couple members. The Act does allow you to appoint full members as well as alternates to sit in if full members are not present. So that's one way to manage the numbers.
Subcommittees and stuff like that.
And we can form subcommittees, that's right.
And from what Representative Cooney said, the decision is really up to the select board once the town votes to...
The board has the final say, so I mean, we can decide what the size of the commission's going to be.
Right, but if we go in March with something very focused, it's a little bit easier for us to defend than say the other.
I don't know. My instinct tells me that at this point in time, the more the merrier, because you're really flailing around looking for to get this thing to coalesce into a fairly concise...
The group of 10 spins off a subcommittee, and you've got 10 people.
10-man committees, I don't know if they accomplish anything.
Well, the problem you have is that you'll never have 10 people at any one meeting. And if you have 10 to pick from, you might get 5 or 6 at any meeting. So if you pick only 4, and 2 or 3 of them not go to a certain meeting or something, you'd be, you wouldn't even have a quorum or anything. So 10, I don't think is too often many. At first, anyway, because some of the people are going to drop out too once it becomes a committee and they find out that they've got a lot of meetings and a lot of responsibility and everything like that. They might not like what they
John?
joined.
We've had that discussion,
Is
that's
there
true.
a scope of purpose? Like, you can probably look at the grade school, but you couldn't look at the high school because of the different towns involved. What is your general, what can you look at and what can't you look at? You certainly can't go in the house and say, you're wasting a lot of money using number 1 fuel instead of number 2. Basically, this building, police station, fire station, what do you cover? Is there a statement what you cover? You don't have to say now, but will that be printed before town meeting so that people know what your scope of energy?
I don't think so. Paul?
No, the process would take, if this was approved, they would come up with a mission statement and also a set of bylaws on how the committee would operate. That would also have to run through the Board of Selectmen. But they wouldn't have their mission statement already before they actually became a committee, sat down with the Board of Selectmen and decided actually what their function is going to be.
Yeah, well, first we have to pass the warrant article, and then we have to decide what the size of the commission is, and
then
then it's up to them to come up with
And
a
then
list
first
of
would come the
potential.
mission statement and then the bylaws.
But, anyone else?
I think the key is that the committee and the commission, the bottom line is they answer to the select board. So it's, you're reckoning that we're just doing whatever you want us to do, basically. And whatever we come up with to present to you to decide whether, whatever energy saving agenda we come up with, that eventually you guys have the final say.
That's right.
Yeah, I understand. I just see this as, it's a board that's going to make recommendations that would help reduce the cost of operating municipal buildings from an energy point of view.
But at that point, you have to realize the original cost to the cost saving of over the life period of whatever that project was.
That's right.
Well, when you to get a grant from the co-op, which I've gotten involved in some commercial properties, I mean, they can come in and say, okay, before you put in a new heating system, you've got to insulate this wall or the segment of the building. So there's all sorts of preconditions, but I think it's helpful, but I am concerned that as these things evolve, the state codes start to change, and because we have a building code that basically mirrors the state code, what's the effect going to be on the town?
I think a lot of it has to do with between the committee and the commission, with the amount of money and grants and so forth that they can get, so it probably would help out.
Yeah. All right, anyone else? Mr. Freitas?
I know that Mr. Gosney wanted us to mention that normally under any warrant article, the public is used to seeing approved or not approved by the Board of Selectmen. And by state statute, and you probably know this, Mary, selectmen cannot
do that anymore.
In all honesty, it's been a law in effect for 35 to 40 years. The Department of Revenue just used to overlook it. So we started mentioning that to the public last year, that in the future you wouldn't be seeing that line underneath there. And both Ray and I believe John, you've also been to a seminar that the state decided. The state was going to look into trying to get that law revoked, but economic times came and the state had to concentrate in other areas. They did not entertain us being allowed to put that back in there. They were hoping by this fiscal year we would be able to just go back to the old way of doing it. But as the statute stands now, there can't be any recommendation from the Board of Selectmen under any warrant article. So we're not just going to be singling out the Energy Commission.
Does that also apply to like the zoning changes or zoning ordinances or anything? Because that used to also say the zoning board approves or...
We're waiting for the copy that the Department of Revenue has put out. And also, if I may just ask a question to the Energy Commission, would we be leaning away from the national group like ICLEA Or are we already starting to lean away from them?
Because we're not really leaning toward any particular group.
Because when they first invited us in, and there was supposed to be no impact on time spent, like here at the town hall personnel, now they want an $800 renewal to be a committee member. They're in contact with this town hall every single day.
Looking for dues, you mean?
Anything.
We're
Email.
We're not
Nothing can be done. That's what I need to know. Are we still affiliated with them? Do I have to continue to? Like, you weren't supposed to continue unless I picked.
I mean, I'll tell you, Paul, I've been doing this for about 6 months now, and
Yeah.
I'm not aware that we are affiliated.
Did you guys want me to?
Yeah.
You're not members anymore.
Okay. Because it was getting to the point that 2 months ago, I even had to vote on a president, because they're international, and the person was from the Philippines. So, but it was starting to get costly at the town hall level with staff and stuff like that, so. All right. And you have no need, Steve, for me to continue communication with them? Well, if you could find that out as a committee and just get back to me on that. It is very time consuming.
Yeah, we're not affiliated with them, but I'll be happy to make that.
If you could just look into it.
Yeah, sure.
Is this going to be a petition warrant article, or is it going to be put together by the town?
We're hopeful that you'll put it on the ballot.
We decided to put it on it.
Right.
Okay.
So I just need a better explanation. Are you asking them to go back and tighten that up a little bit more? I'm going to need the final verbiage. I need to know what changes need to.
It sounded like there wasn't much interest here. I just was talking about going to March with a specific number, but if we're not interested, that's fine.
And I'll take that right now and send it to the Department of Revenue and have them review the warrant article.
Should we, is it appropriate for a motion now, or you want to wait till after the Department of Revenue comes back?
It's
motion to.
This is just a public hearing. You can vote to support it, and then it'll be on the warrant.
We already, I think, believe supported.
Right, but you've already done that, so
We're all set. Okay. All right.
It'll be a warrant article.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing's over. Other business is done. Public comment. Does anyone have any public comments? Should I call us out of the public hearing?
Yeah, call us out to bring public hearing to it.
So, with that, we will end the public hearing, 7:05, and go back into the regular meeting. Any public comments? Huh?
Where's Frank tonight?
Last I saw him, he was in a monkey suit. Dressers. There being no public comment, do we have any non-public? We have no non-public?
No.
Therefore, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Almost made it in an hour.